Hey, Joe,
How are you two today?
hanging in there.
Kind of blown away.
It is what it.
Just have to hold on to your everything.
Don't you get a lot of complaints on your Eclipse viewers?
No, believe it or not, we didn't.
Why not?
I don't know. That's a good question. So we didn't realize until probably a week before that they probably weren't gonna work.
Oh,
I
the
think
work,
it,
yeah, the work.
no, they didn't work at all.
No,
So we had,
Wait, what are you talking
there
about?
was Eclipse viewers that bought that whole big stack of them and passed them out at a meeting 2 or 3 meetings ago. Anybody wanted them for, it was like a card. Just held here.
Oh, one of those. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
they did not work. So what happened was we ordered, I want to say 200 about a year ago. And those actually did work. And then later on, she
Joe,
ordered
this is an updated agenda.
I don't got one.
the second
You did
set of
pictures?
glasses that were a different,
They're like
From a
$5
different
minutes a piece.
Yeah,
And for
um,
you guys not to get them is
they
frustrating.
didn't work.
so this is updated?
That's the part, no, it's not.
So I need.
So,
Yes.
the little parent tape, how do you know it didn't work?
There's nothing, you can see
You
anything
just
through
hold
it.
it up to the sun
Yeah.
on the day of the eclipse and you couldn't see it.
I mean,
And
you
actually,
couldn't see anything.
yeah,
It's just black. Fortunately, I bought glasses too, you know?
and
I thought, am I too dumb to use this thing? And I tried it upside down, turned it around.
well, it's the bad part about that is I wouldn't even, and I haven't looked back to see what we actually spent on those, but
Oh,
probably
like
$200.
Yeah, $100. Yeah,
I'd be getting back to that company and get a refund.
Yeah.
I'm going to. I'm gonna reach out to them and just,
Oh, that's, yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Well,
they're probably, it's a Chinese company. I'm sure they probably won't care, but we can
Oh,
try.
true.
It's interesting because they've got, I would say about a month before the eclipse started, we started hearing about make sure that your glasses are, I don't know, make sure they're certified because in years past, there have been like legal implications for
Sure.
uncertified. We checked those glasses. It's got all the appropriate language
Oh, yeah.
on the back of the glasses.
Yeah, on the back of that card, it had the ISO numbers that were
Yeah.
supposed to be there and everything.
And it's an interesting strategy. I mean, if you think about it, if that was the intention,
Out loud.
nobody's gonna pay attention to that until
Make it into the park board packet.
probably the day of the eclipse.
That'd be kind of nice to
Uh,
read.
Jamie's husband tested them. He was
He's
welding.
welding.
Yeah,
You can
that's
even
what
see
we,
his welding, spark, like, whatever you call it. What
Yeah.
do you call that?
yeah.
Spark?
Yeah, Jamie had held him up in the office probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks before the eclipse. And was like, I don't think these are gonna work.
Well, and then took him outside and tried to look at the sun.
Yeah, you couldn't even see the sun with them, yeah.
Yeah, it really was like
But
masking tape.
it was too late by that point, so we started issuing the other glasses that we had from the first order, which those worked.
Yeah,
So that's good, but I was curious to see how
Yeah.
many people that, we did not distribute them that day.
Do they not work?
Damn glasses.
They didn't get on the bill.
Oh, John,
I just told, that's what I was asking. I said, it's completely worthless. I'm glad we got a couple glasses too. Extra.
Well, actually, I went to the switch yard and I was in line to get a beer and somebody turned around and said, hey, got expert glasses you want? And I thought, yep, sure.
Good thing.
And good thing, because the ones I brought, I didn't know until I was sitting down waiting for the eclipse to occur. Hey, you can't see through these things.
Yeah, so what I've been telling myself is that everybody we gave glasses to probably had 5 or 6 pairs. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well,
I think we realized,
we had enough.
I think we realized soon enough that they weren't gonna work, that we started giving out the batch that did work. So I think unfortunately, you guys are the ones that got the
Yeah.
first and you got the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, and when were they handed out?
Oh, and the day of.
I was working on my
If they can take some off.
That's a update.
I ordered some after the first that were here, we're gonna go off, but I thought, yeah, okay. I better get it.
Pretty sure the general.
It's not the hell's right.
Yeah.
Every year.
That's that. So
Uh,
about.
you know, I never seen them. I looked at it, they say, oh, you're outrageous. And he's like, honey, it's.
Oh. She did stuff like this, like this next to. Thank goodness, because I didn't need to ask for that option.
Well, I mean, we've got ways.
25,000
Didn't
for.
hand them out after
That
election.
then.
I went outside and I looked up the sun. Even if it's the sun on a Sunday, I was like,
You know, so everybody was, when they turned it out, big kids.
Figured out, yeah, I tried to turn them around, upside down.
It was like a fun.
Well, then I cussed John,
we had ordered pizza.
then I put the regular price on there, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping.
So that's what it is.
Yeah. We were planning on distributing.
Wow.
Right.
I think it was about.
So that.
Did you hear anything from the company or?
No.
Where they made it.
Yes.
That, it.
Yeah.
We bought it with a credit card.
Well, no, that'd be great. I mean, and.
I think it is. I'm gonna try.
Overdid it. Because I could, if I look really careful.
Even our villages and wetland, because all that, you don't want to get in there, it's all about it, but. So.
But you know, that guy stuff, it goes over that little,
First, for the.
and then the driveway almost immediately turns, so if you have a cross with it. This lane off trailer, you can't even stay on this driveway.
And I just.
To get your trailer tires.
So that.
This, yeah, that's really what it's made.
Yeah, they really got it.
Well,
They look
that's.
legit.
Just watching that race gravel
But
too,
I don't
but you
know.
couldn't even get it. Trucks to get in all
I
the
would
equipment
like
to work.
to realize they're all, you know, before they eclipse, that they were probably too dark.
It was a day, beautiful day, music.
We were a few short.
Weird that-
Yeah, I'd say about 270,000.
We only had about, by the time,
We.
I stuck around until it was all done and most people had left, just in case we had to jump anybody, but I bet we were just over 50% for capacity of cars.
Yeah.
Flatwoods filled up with 90 some cars, so they were full plus in the grass. Detmer had parked some in the grass, but I mean, it wasn't busy at all. At all. And they just influxed, the amount of them came in, it was just flow from the morning. I never had a problem with people getting jammed up anywhere.
Been going out.
Even going out, literally, as soon as the totality was done, there was a couple cars that rolled out and then the rest of them started slowly going after. We had one person blow a transmission right inside the main gate. Made it about 20 feet past the turn. I had to pull them off the road. They were from Albany and it was the parents and 2 kids and they had just had their transmission fixed. And paid $5,000 and about 2 weeks later, it blew their transmission here. And he was saying it was worth it. And I'm like, you're nuts, bud. This is cool, but that's not worth it. They didn't know how they were getting home. They're gonna get sent a tow truck from the company that fixed their vehicle.
Cancel.
But then, yeah, from way down there, but then they're like, we think we're just gonna ride back with the tow truck. And I'm like, what's the 2 of you plus your 2 kids plus a driver? That's 5 in the front seat of a tow truck. I don't know how that
Oh,
works.
sorry, I misread.
It was gone by the end of the night, so.
I didn't.
The car being towed.
We only had about maybe a little over half the cars was full. About Woods and Jennifer were both parked in the grass. But
I just sprayed all that.
ours wasn't real busy.
I think it was about 11 o'clock.
Make it for, you know.
This isn't gonna be what we thought it was gonna be. I'm looking up with the glasses, there's no
Almost got it
sun.
right.
Is the eclipse even gonna happen?
I mean, and luckily enough, it worked out that way because with all the rain that week, had we not been able to mow the soccer fields that day, like we had 3 people mowing soccer fields, because if we didn't get it done that day, we weren't, it was gonna be bad. So luckily, we got some stuff done.
I thought it was really interesting when the explanation came out for why the numbers here were so far off. Nobody saw it.
What was, I hadn't heard, what was the explanation? Everybody
Well,
been
the
told the
previous
same.
eclipse, quasi eclipse, was in a fairly unpopulated area, so people had to drive there,
Right.
had to drive there. But here, we lived here, and most of us just stepped out on the back deck and looked up.
Interesting.
So, numbers were way off.
And I heard that the path had shifted a little bit too, and we weren't as in the totality as what we had originally were supposed to be. And so I think a lot of people went wherever it shifted to.
A lot of us were afraid of the traffic they've been.
That was definitely a dead all week.
I rode my bike that day and I kept thinking, where's all the cars and it's dead.
They had one camper at the fairgrounds all weekend. Well, they had one on Friday and he showed up with the tent, and by about halfway through the rainstorm, he decided it's better off if he went to a motel. And then Saturday, we had RV show up at Karst, she tried to stick around. Mark Doyle Week didn't allow overnights, but they did at the fair, so they got her. And then she was there up until Tuesday, so she stuck around for at least a couple days. But they had 3 food vendors that all 3 pulled their rigs, and then all 3 pulled their campers, and then had somebody man them for 3 days and had 0 sales.
Yeah, I feel bad for the local
Yeah.
restaurants and everybody that's
Expensive they
going
went
extra
to.
staff.
Well, I thought I was just being cynical ahead of time. There's no way in the world there's gonna be 300,000 people coming to Monroe County for this, you know. Turned out I wasn't as cynical as I thought.
We've got enough toilet paper, paper towel, and trash bags to last till about November.
That's what some restaurant over at Ellisville told me, says, we've got
For
a
today's.
really good inventory.
There was nobody in Ellisville. I saw the aerial over Jiffy Tree, the IGA, like, there was nobody there.
The 46 is having traffic on it at all.
Yeah, no, on my way home, there was nothing.
We had to drive about 6 miles to a friend's house. It's like right on the border between
Maybe they're.
Monroe County and Ellis County. And going from Spencer to there, and I told my wife, I said, I don't know, it's about 6 miles. It's like, I'd probably get us about 45 minutes. Took about 8 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't see another call.
Yeah, I know, everybody was off their roads.
Everybody stayed home.
Showed up to this gathering like 30 minutes early because I was like, oh, it's gonna be just wall to wall traffic. It's. Didn't see anybody.
No. Made it very nice one day. I hit a deer on the way that morning to work.
Oh.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was the most exciting thing I had been.
No.
That
Carol, she sent an email that she is gonna be here.
I helped her get it out.
So after I'm away from my computer, and there's the assumption that
I did, but I got her. Yeah,
I don't do that on my phone.
Well, you're just gonna have to get up to speed.
But do we know the other 3 are not going to be here?
I never heard from
Ed
Phil.
said he would be here.
Okay, I never heard from Phil, so I'm guessing he will not.
Okay, and Carol is going to be late. That's what her email said.
No, she just said she forgot to respond, but she is ready here.
Red more.
But she obviously will be a little late.
And nobody heard from Carolyn.
I'm looking. I'm pretty sure Carolyn said she'd be here.
Well,
Traffic.
now.
I do know nobody told me they would not be.
What's the good traffic? Like Carol's not here.
Oh, yeah, that's what they're caught in that traffic. Okay.
Am I correct that I should have checked Robert's Rules of Order myself? We cannot even have a meeting discussion without a quorum. Is that correct?
Well, I've heard of the attorney.
To have a meeting, we do have to have an in-person forum.
But what about chit chat?
We could probably chit chat as long as there's no action taken. I guess, okay.
There's some chit chat.
Does that mean you call the meeting to order or you don't call?
No.
No.
Don't call it and you can chit
Yeah,
chat
we don't have,
about life
Well,
or
About the chit.
We can wait.
we can do what we've been doing. We can talk about how things went, the eclipse, in the parks and all that, because it's now an agenda item. No decision's gonna be made, no official business, none of that.
this refers to gift.
Locked. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what else can we talk?
family, can you hear us?
Yeah, actually, I think I'm.
How was your trip, Kelly?
It was excellent.
Good.
Where all did you go?
Amsterdam, Germany, France, Switzerland. Train through Belgium, that's like
Or was it 2 weeks?
16 days.
16? Oh. Thank you for coming. We'll call the meeting to order. 38. And we'll start with the call to order.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Joe,
Here.
Carolyn is not. Kevin,
Here.
Bill is absent. Carol, here. Edward is also absent.
There is, there is an amendment to the published agenda, so we will need a motion to accept the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion, we accept the amendment. Agenda?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to accept the amended agenda. Jamie?
Evelyn,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes. Motion passes. There's nothing on today's agenda, even with the amendment, that applies to statement of compliance. Moving on to item number 5, public comment on non-agenda items. You qualify as public.
From that pin.
We're good, we're good. Okay. Moving on to item 6, approval of the March 20, 2024 meeting minutes. Pages 1 through 6. On page 4, there is a correction, and Kelly's going to. I guess this page.
Just
Hmm?
on the first sentence,
Yes.
page 4. Got a couple words, so I'm going to include those words. Okay. Jackson Creek Park was donated by W.R. Dunn and Robert E. Snoddy by warranty deed on July 9th, 1991 to Bloomington Community Park and Recreation Foundation. Bloomington Community Parks and Recreation Foundation warranty deed to the Monroe County Parks and Recreation Board on August 10th, 1990.
Thank you.
Not to confuse it with our foundation.
Can we have that be, the footnote to the minutes?
Oh,
Because that's really wasn't what the presentation is. That's not correction of an error, that's additional information, but I think it could be a footnote.
It's kind of both. Yeah, and it's valuable information.
Yeah.
Because I looked, when I was reviewing the minutes, I thought I saw this reference to the foundation in 1991, and I thought, is this? No, I don't think so. So I dug out the bylaws to the foundation, which I oddly enough still have a copy of, amazing. And it was 2002, which felt closer
Right
to.
today, yeah.
Accurate. But I thought 1991, I don't think that's.
That's one of those foresight things.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, thank you, Kelly, for, providing that information. It will be, added to the next packet for our.
If I could I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with Kelly's statement added as a footnote to the comments of our attorney, page 4.
Second.
Seconded to approve the amended minutes. Any other questions or comments? Anything else about the minutes? Questions, et cetera? Hearing none. Jamie?
Joe,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Carol,
I don't think I can vote. I wasn't here.
and Evelyn.
Yes.
And Carol.
And I'm here now.
I'm Caroline.
So the answer is yes.
Motion passes. Page 7, item 7, approval of the March 2024 non-reverting decisions. On page 7.
I'll make a motion that we approve the non-reverting claims for March 2024. Non-reverting claim, I guess.
Okay, seconded to approve the March 2024 non-reverting claims. Any questions about either one of these?
I have a question. Go Express Day Camp, you know, is that like for one day camp or a whole bunch?
For, one thing.
That's here. We can get her. I don't know if it's a deposit.
She said it was a paid in full invoice, but I did, the invoice just said, you know, so I don't know if it's just.
Matt can go get her. They'll play for asking.
I think that'd be a lot more than just one.
Just ask Beth if they go express basis for specifically.
Maybe a trip and a deposit for the next trip as well.
Well, Beth gets back. Let's move on to item 8, approval of the March 2024 credit card charges on page 8. Questions about those charges?
Make a motion, we approve the credit card charges for March 2024.
Second.
Been seconded to March 2024 credit card charges. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. Jamie?
Kevin,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Joe,
Yeah.
and Carolyn.
Yes.
Motion passes.
What's WDT?
That is for one day camp.
One. Thank you. That's right.
I mean, people went.
They haven't gone.
Nobody yet, right?
I mean, that's awesome.
It's high.
It is
and
high.
It's, I knew it was up considerably from last year. Last year was about 1,000.
They do out of county trips, like to the
Correct.
Beaver game.
Zoom.
So that's one day. trip.
Just, I'll try to sponsor.
So is he going to get her?
Yeah, she's standing right at the front door.
Is,
I'll just trade.
is this our only choice? Go Express.
For out of county. That's
Out of the county.
Beth has been doing some agreements with rural transit now, but she's probably the best one to explain it because it can all change from last year.
If I could make a suggestion, we have discussions of the budget for next year. Let's specifically look at the travel expenses for programs like this and make sure that we are, you know, doing this the least expensive option.
Talk about transportation, Go Express, rural transit.
Right, so a few years ago, we lost rural transit as an option because they got that $5,000, 1503 grant or something that precluded them from doing the kind of transportation they've always done for us. So we used Go Express, which I had gotten quotes from it. Well, submitted quote requests from a lot of different companies. They're by far the cheapest, but we only use them for out-of-town field trips. Now, what we've done the last couple of years, since we got a used minibus on loan from the youth shelter, and with that combined with 2 Ford Explorers that we have in our department, we would shuttle the kids for the in-town field trips in 2 groups using that, which was it was logistically very difficult to do, but we made it work. So we would transport the kids ourselves with our vehicles, with our drivers, our day camp counselors would use these vehicles for the in-town field trips. Now, the out of town, I don't like this minibus to go out of town on the highway. I don't like it. It's old. It's kind of a rust bucket looking thing. So I would contract Go Express to go to the out of town field trips, which last year we went to 2 out of town. This year we're doing the same. Although Rural Transit this year, I contacted them and they're working on a deal with this for they've been able to provide us with some of the transportation if we pay per child instead of like renting the bus for 1 trip. So it'd be $3 a person per trip. So they're sending me like 1 bus for our in-town field trips. It's Rural Transit sending a bus, and then we're still using Explorers and the minibus, but I don't have to shuttle. I can just go one shot, which makes it a lot easier for our venues that I don't have to bring kids in 2 groups. Do it all in one time.
You have to leave counselors.
Right. But I'm still using Go Express for 1 trip out of town. We're going to Indianapolis Fieldhouse, the Indiana Fever game. Rural Transit won't be, I guarantee you, won't be any cheaper, and I have to use like 3 or 4 buses to do that. So it'd probably be inching up for $2,000 if I was going to use Rural Transit. So I'm using Go Express for that. So it's this is not haphazard. I mean, I've run the numbers and I've tried to make it work out as economically as we can.
I
So
don't think anybody thought it might be haphazard. It was just, is this 1 trip? Is this a week? Is
it's
it
expensive.
camp?
It's expensive. It is very expensive. That's why we're not really doing a lot of the day trips now, because that's going down to French Lick will cost $1,400 or $1,500. So at least with day camp, I can pretty much absorb that cost over the course of the summer because I get a lot of fees for day camp, a lot. And the per person amount that I'd have to charge, like the older people, would be like triple what they pay now to even try to cover the cost. So.
And the people driving the, what'd you call it, a rust bucket or?
The minibus, no, I didn't say that. I said it was a minibus. Very fine minibus.
It's the best one out of all the mini buses that the county has.
It's been looked over. We have it looked over mechanically. It's sound. It's sound. I just don't like the idea of my staff driving that's a larger vehicle like that on the highway.
But everybody is insured to drive
Yes.
children around.
Well, as far as we know, we've been, who's the fleet manager now? Richard. Yeah, we always give them our driver's license. Jamie always asks me for the driver's license so we can send it to them. So they all know we're doing it.
They're working on a lot of things about insurance.
Yeah, the attorney, is it Jeff Cockrell?
Okay, no.
Jeff, he had been informed of that the counselors were
He has been
driving.
informed.
And that they've done this, they've driven the other vehicles for years. We had an 18-passenger van for years that the counselors drove, which I think is pretty dangerous. I took that out of commission to drive kids in. So we're using this minibus now.
Yeah, we just were questioning, or I was, the amount of money, and if it was for 1 trip,
It's for 1 trip.
but you only have 1 trip planned.
I have 2, but I'm trying to work it. The other trip is to TC Steel, which isn't technically out of town. So I'm going to see if Rural Transit might give me some sort of deal on that. To $3 a person still. I don't know if they will.
Have we looked at like school buses?
Yes, we had a school bus driver for years. That there's really not a lot available and they're not very much cheaper, if any cheaper.
That's not back in the day where a farmer had a school. Nope. Doesn't work. Oh,
So
see,
CCRs.
oh, give him a chair.
Yes, you're welcome. Any more questions?
Well, I just want to say, my concern was that this somehow had jumped up, suddenly, this increase in cost. Sounds like this has been occurring over the last few years, and you've been adjusting as dealing with those costs and
Yeah.
making, and that's all.
Okay.
The concern was that we were not just paying the higher bills and not looking at other options, if there were any options that could handle the situation.
I think we've covered every option that I can
Okay.
think of,
great.
What
so.
was it last year, Beth?
For the one,
For a trip, was it 1,000 around there?
it was not 1,400, but it was around 1,000 maybe. I think it's around 1,000.
And Go Express has professional drivers who are certified.
Yeah. I mean, we saved a little money last year on the actual transportation using our 3 vehicles. However, I had to bring in more staff, extra staff to do that. So, and then we had to pay for the gas. So it really didn't save us as much money as I thought it
And we
would.
talked to Richard, the fleet, that I would like to take our Ford Explorers and however he wants to do it and get minivans because our Ford Explorers, the particular Ford Explorers we have are horrendous, as in it's hard to get in. You have to throw a kid over a seat.
You have to be kind of a monkey to get
It's
that back
the
row.
Ford Explorer design.
The blind spots in them are
The
bad.
blind spots are bad. I've said that about the.
So he's working on that. He might be able to give our Ford Explorers to another department who doesn't operate with children and get us a vehicle with a backup camera and a more of a van situation. He's working on it.
12, so that's amazing.
For the record, should we make sure we verify that you're not actually throwing a child in?
Yeah, I can't guarantee.
Well, I have to myself, so it's like.
Very gentle.
Yeah.
Very gently place them.
Yeah, we don't. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth.
No children costs.
So back to item 7, approval of the non-reverting claims on page 7. Now that all questions have been answered. Motion over.
I know we already had a motion.
Did we already have a motion? Made the motion and Carol seconded it.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
That was the
We have-
discussion.
Then we've had
Sidetracked.
lengthy discussion. Jamie?
Carolyn,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Edward,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
and Joe.
Yeah.
Motion passes. Moving on to the old business. If you have a copy, did you get a copy of this?
Carol, you don't have one of these.
You know.
Yes, she shared.
Okay. So,
Wait, is this on the back?
No, this is,
under old business, ARPA Karst Farm Park projects. Kelly.
As you said, ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, also known as COVID. The commissioners and Penny might be able to speak on this. The page that I gave you was from February 13th. These numbers may probably have already changed because it's been on the council and commissioners' agenda multiple times. But it's the only time I found all the numbers there. As you can see, I highlighted Karst Wireless and Karst Farm Park athletic fields. The athletic fields is a done deal. The wireless may not. Fair to say.
Maybe allocate to something else.
And it may be, and which is absolutely fine because it's a large amount. Greg from PSD has been getting quotes. It's actually going to be more around $100,000 plus an $8,000 a month annual fee from Smithville. So this is a lot of money for this project that it's not critical for us because you have your own cell phone, you have your own data plan, you can use your own stuff. And if for some reason there's too many people at the park, as in like, say, I do football and something doesn't work, as we say, maybe you should go watch the soccer game.
And survive the eclipse.
We did start the clips without. We also have one hot spot, which we might be able to put a sign up out by the commons. So if you would have your computer, you can sit at a nice picnic table at the commons under a nice shade. And you can be on county, county free Wi-Fi there, but it won't be the whole park. I don't know what the commissioners are gonna do, but I just want you aware of it. The $8,000 annual fee is a concern because it's only gonna go up. Anywho, any questions?
So did everybody follow that? Just
Basically a heads up.
heads up.
But did the park board vote to have this presented?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the wireless?
No, that's not how that happened.
Okay.
We've talked about wireless on and off, but like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? But it's one of those passing and hey, let's get it at the commons. And that's all we've ever discussed. It's like, oh, that's nice. We have a hotspot around one shelter.
What I was asking is, for the $75,000 that was requested for ARPA, did this board vote?
No.
Okay, that's all. Otherwise you'd have to vote to ask them. That's all.
No. So that is the question for today, correct? No, you have no question, just an update. I mean, no voting, right? No voting.
Not something we're thinking we have to do.
Correct. And it'll be up to the
The commissioners have the money and want to give it to us, we'll take it, but we're not gonna ask for it at this point because there's too much else going on.
That's a fair
And
statement.
we might not even take it because
And there is the ongoing concern of the $8,000 a year
Annually.
fee.
Yes.
Okay. So they haven't pulled the trigger on it. And $8,000 would come out of this property. We don't know. Most likely, I've been in county government a long time. TSD may pay for it, but then at some point they may say, well, I don't know why we're paying for this. And then it'll end up at the Parks Department because it's at our park. FYI, that's kind of how things happen over the years. So yes, we might get stuck with it someday. Yes.
Just out of curiosity, the change in the amount to $100,000, probably a good explanation of that, but did we not know there'd be a monthly fee when this came?
Yeah, yes, we did. And Smithville would not tell us what it is. I asked them multiple times and I said, could you give me a ballpark? And they're like, no.
That's a heck of a way to do business.
Well,
They have a lot of details they have to figure out before you would even like let loose with the number.
you're.
Yeah, well, it's still a heck of a way to do business.
Okay. No.
while we're on all
Anything else, Penny?
I guess I would like to know whether or not to have this withdrawn from request because we have to allocate every single cent of this money. It has to be pledged by the end of this year and it has to be spent by the end of 2026. So I need to know whether or not to go to our next joint meeting and say, take this up.
If I may throw in my 2 cents, the way I'm hearing things and kind of some of the stuff, I feel as though the commissioners have already been so gracious to us with everything else. I almost feel like this is an extra. It's the additional toppings that we don't need on the hamburger. And it's, if we get the additional toppings, it's also more cost that we have to bear at a later time. I almost feel like redacting that request would be a better option. Just my 2 cents. I've also used the Wi-Fi at the Commons when I partner with county to do the Master Naturalist program. And I've sat out there before on my work laptop at the picnic tables. And that does reach out to the little picnic area around the area. So if it's a situation where somebody needs internet because, hey, their kids playing soccer or whatever, they just need to be able to work remote or whatever it is it really needed for us to have internet throughout the entire property? Parks are supposed to be your way of checking out and going and interacting and, I'm not saying we need to, everybody would agree with me, but just feeling like
I
as a
think it would be a nice service to the people of Monroe County, but it's not one that we can afford at this point. And why should we?
I almost feel like it'd be my personal opinion, and I would even make a motion if needed be to redact this and allow the commissioners to take and us out of that conversation, look to put that money elsewhere. They've already gifted us or given us so much more for the fields and stuff that, so.
Now, I did mention to Penny and I can explain, same thing, but I always know that we have very large Cars Athletic Complex projects going on.
there will always be overruns. Everything's costs more than we think. Andy Canus has informed me that the parking lot going into the fields is not ADA and it needs to be completely redesigned, which he's already redesigned it. That was not in our budget, but we're going to put it in the bid as an alternate so we can see how much it's going to cost. But to have this really nice facility and not be ADA accessible is not great. But we're gonna work through it. We will work through it. But we have the design. Hopefully we can find money somewhere, or maybe things come in under budget and we can get it all.
But if we, as a board, say this proposal for wireless no longer works for us, we would like to withdraw the proposal. That doesn't mean we can't say, if the commissioners don't have another use lined up for this, we can't make the request that some of that money be used for ADA parking or access to the fields. It's not our money.
It is not.
So I think the proper thing to do is to withdraw this request and then suggest that we would have another project perhaps that they could benefit from this, but it would be separate from
And up to the
this.
commission.
Yes. Of course.
I resonate with that 100% and just saying, you know, we always have options to spend money if you want to give it to us. That's not, I think the whole county can say that, but I think that this is.
Once in a while, it's a good idea to disconnect from this stupid thing.
Can I make a motion?
Please.
I would make the motion that we withdraw our request for funding for wireless services expansion at Cars Farm Park. And look into the possibility of submitting another proposal to the commissioners.
Or a different,
Moved and seconded to withdraw this request. While retaining the possibility of,
Looking into it, that we have no right to retain anything. It's simply that we might come up with something else as discussed.
any further discussion or comments about this?
Seem to have lost her.
Sorry,
We seem to have lost her.
we've gained John.
Oh, yes.
Penny, is this what you need or?
I feel better about it.
Okay, cute.
Because I wanted to know what the wish was before.
I think that's, I appreciate that we get this input.
John?
All right, Carol,
Yes.
Edward,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And Evelyn, if I may, I know it's not needed, but I think a thank you is also in order for the commissioners to allow us to kind of be wishy-washy with our request at time, but I appreciate everything you guys have done to get us funds and the intent you have for us in your mind, so.
I've been coming to the meetings for 5 years now, Kelly. And so I know that I've been talking about the turf out of Cars Farm for at least that long.
It's longer than that, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be nice to see that in play.
Before we leave old businesses, is there an update on the Jackson Creek encroachment issue?
Well, if you want, we can talk about it during the playground talk.
That's fine too.
Okay.
Okay, so starting new business. The MOU with Monroe County Humane Association, which I read a couple of times. And I'm sure clarification is forthcoming.
Yes. We've been working with Monroe County Humane Associations, making sure over a decade. And it was on Margie's to-do list to do an MOU, and she was really excited about it because we would be working with emergency management and them. And she wasn't worried about it, so it always kind of got back on the back burner. So I put it on Justin's list. And he had time to write this wonderful, good-feely MOU, between emergency management, Monroe County Humane Association, and Monroe County government to provide an area at Carson Park, which they have been using and we don't need, for a lot of different items. You've probably all read in the newspaper when they have a hoarding incident. All that gear, those crates are in this bay that we never use. We need to clean it a little better, I think. But that's where they store all that. And they also store their special events that they do at Carson Park, which are great for us. They bring all their staff and they do a lot of times an event at the dog park, or they do walk for the animals at Carson Park. So we have a very good working relationship with them. In this way, it just memorializes what we're doing. And plus, if there is an emergency and emergency management needs their equipment, it gives them authority to come in and grab everything. Our staff would help them, of course, if there's flooding or a tornado or anything that they might need to help people with animals, because when people go to shelters, sometimes they don't go because they have their animal. So this is just like a big team effort between emergency management, main association, and us just helping out when we can. And Justin. The one who's not up. Good. I don't
That's
know.
what he always wanted to hear.
Well,
Wait.
and maybe the top of his list. So I don't know if you have questions.
So are there questions, or Justin, do you have a comment?
Not a lot of comments. I don't know that it has a lot of operational value. It really just more or less what's already been going on. And it just basically lays out that if emergency management needs the stuff, we'll assist with it. We'll try to get in touch with the proper channels. But it basically just lays out the agreement, how we move forward using that.
You have a question, Kevin? You,
No.
that's all. Okay.
So do we need to vote on this? Versus?
Yeah, because then I'll send it to the commissioners.
I'll make the motion to approve the MOU between the Monroe County Humane Association and the Monroe County Parks Department. I'll second it.
In emergency.
And emergency management.
Moved and seconded to approve the memorandum of understanding. Any other comments or questions? John?
Harold,
Yes.
Edward,
Yep.
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now, item B, under new business, is playground equipment discussion for Jackson Creek Park and the Will Detmer Park. Who is speaking to this?
I'll start. I'm not asking for any decisions. I just want to make sure, because Joe was concerned that we weren't thinking about the playground replacement at Jackson Creek. We have for months. And so I just want to kind of give you some options. I don't want any decisions today, but I just want you to know how much the equipment cost. So Jackson Creek Park, that playground equipment probably will be taken out in the next years.
2-3 years.
There's not much left. Andy keeps taking stuff off of it. So pretty soon it's just going to be a ladder. I don't know. To nowhere. You're probably taking down.
We've taken down a whole platform section, a slide, ladder, and
40% of it. At least.
yeah, we're pretty close to it, yeah.
And so, and plus, sorry, this is Jackson Creek. You see that green, you think it's a park? Well, that's the floodplain. It's literally the whole park. And the playground equipment currently is in the wrong location. So this new equipment, we want to put it over here. Because we also want to, and I'm so sorry about this, I don't want you to decide anything. There's a pedestrian easement that Justin's going to work on that hopefully we can get access to. And it'll go to the new playground. The new playground will then go to the shelter. The shelter goes to the parking lot. That's the route that would take. We will need Blitz over to Cooper and James to help us with some drainage issues just because this is all in flood. So to talk about Jackson Creek Park. You can get a playground structure and swings for 30,000. Playground structure only for 23,000. Swings only for 7,000. That's just the structure. The playground safety for both of it's $40,000. Installation, so the whole, if you want the whole kit and caboodle, it's gonna be around $100,000. So I just want you to think about that. That's why I suggested maybe just swings. I don't know.
Let's stop.
Okay,
Why isn't it around $70,000?
because I didn't put all the numbers in yet. If we do the structure, we need plate pros to put it in. I don't have their, that's another
20, yeah, probably.
Yeah, just from experience, if you put everything in, and this is gonna have to have drainage, have to have a concrete curb. There's a lot of things.
Sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be 100, if you do the whole kit. And just so you know, under Jackson Creek Park, under B, where it says 24,800, that should be for the swings, and 15,200 is the playground or the Smarty surface, because you need more surface for the swings, because there's more safety zone on the swing. I'm swinging now. So that's why it's more, so FYI. Now, Will Detmer Park, we've had tons of requests for his swing set. Tons. I mean, everyone, and where's the swings? We love swings. We love swings. There's no swings.
Playground, but not
Playground, my swing. So just ponder this. If we buy the swings only, Andy, we won't need Bledsoe for this problem. We don't need an engineering. We can handle everything. The concrete curb for that.
So I'm thinking it'll probably be between 1,000 and 2,000, probably closer to $2,000 for the concrete itself, and then probably a couple $1,000s in stone. So $5,000, you could get the stone and the concrete.
So for around $10,000. And that's taking this big tree down that people will not be happy with, but it's in decline anyway. For about 10,000, we can get a swing set in there. Our staff can do most of the work. Because
And we've already got the rubber, the chrome rubber, and underneath where we just need to buy the turf.
Sure. So we have a lot of stuff extra that's just at Cars Farm Park, it's storage. So, Detmer, we could $10,000-$12,000 get a swing set operational.
That's something we did install that ourselves.
Yeah, just because that's,
That's a question.
oh, yeah, lots.
I think we need to look at usage before we make any decision. And now I understand the equipment out there has been deteriorating for a while. It may be hard to judge the usage of that equipment if it's not been very functional.
What are you talking about, Kevin?
Jackson Creek. I mean, it's an isolated park, as far as I know, that doesn't get a lot of traffic, especially from areas other than immediately around it.
Except for the neighborhood.
And I'm not familiar with the neighborhood, but
It's much less isolated than it used to be.
Yeah.
You just built, I don't know how many
So-
units down there. There's 2 new subdivisions in that area. There's more going in.
okay, but what I want to know is if there is, if the best choice in equipment is swings and, kids
Yeah, I showed you some photos.
platform thing, whatever. Because I think we ought to think in terms of, well, what is that neighborhood like? Are there still a lot of kids in that neighborhood, or is it no longer a neighborhood with a lot of kids? What will the demand be? You've heard demand at Detmer already. They want a swing set. Have you heard that demand from people who use Jackson Creek?
I've heard a couple at Jackson Creek.
I know my wife used to live there when she was a kid in that addition next to it, and they went there all the time and used.
That particular addition turns over, as in new families come in, the kids grow up, I believe, because it's economical, the houses are not they're not exceedingly expensive. So I think you might have a lot of young families coming into that neighborhood.
The handful of people that I've talked to from over there, including the people that we had those trees that tree cut down, I mean, they had kids my kids' age, you know, they were young and the lady that asked about moving the barn, that shed that actually moved their shed back, she had young kids in her backyard. So I think it's a pretty,
Point is simply, before we decide to substitute one new swing set for an old swing set and so forth, we really ought to make sure that whatever we put in, it's going to be in demand.
Well,
But if you look at the building that's going on in Monroe County right now, that whole area between the end of Roger Street and north to Monroe Road or wherever road.
Southwest.
That whole area, both on either side of Walnut, is being developed. So it may not be urgent now, but in 10 years, when all of those houses are built, that park is likely to be a lot more in use than it is now. I mean, for the 40 years that I've lived here, probably 30 of them, that whole area was pretty much blank. It was businesses and whatever, but now, you know, they're building a whole nother extension onto the Clear Creek School, et cetera. So there's probably a lot more kids in that area than we know about.
This particular unit is for 2 to 5 year olds, so it's for the younger kids. I do think it gets used. That's why I think it's critical when Justin's going to work on this pedestrian easement for me. Because if we can, from the housing addition, you can just literally, you'll be on the road, you can see the playgrounds, and you can, if you can walk on the easement, you can get right to it without driving in your car. You can walk from the entire neighborhood and walk right to the playground. So that's critical, is to get that pedestrian easement situated. So I'm pumping Justin up.
I kind of look at these two things. Will Denver Park gets a lot of use. And you've got demand for swings, and I think you ought to get the swing set built. I'm all for that. The other one I think is a little bit more in the future because of what we've been talking about. However, Jackson Creek Park has kind of been kind of always been put off there to the side by the Parks Board, department, everybody.
Does it not get used because it doesn't have the accoutrements that Deborah?
It's one of those circular things, so the chicken and the egg deal, you know, it's not very good equipment, so of course it doesn't get used, you know, it's that kind of thing. So I think we ought to do some real analysis on the needs there and.
If we put in a swing set, can we then upgrade it later?
Yes.
Without it being?
You could do any of this in phases. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, because you know how I like one truck shopping, is if we buy things now, I can put everything in one truck and we can do it in phases, store equipment parts for our part. Because I will guarantee you the same equipment will go up in December and January of every year. Every single year. So we could get this equipment, store it at cars for over a year. And why, as we collect money or, you know, we can just start doing it in phases. Because I do like one truck. If you're gonna buy 2 swing sets, I want it to come on one truck. And we could store it at cars.
And do some
Even the same thing, we could store that equipment. This isn't very large. Andy can store it at the big cars fire park maintenance building. And we could probably get all this up and going in, I'd say, 2.5 years.
So the playground at Detmer is suitable for the addition of swings.
Yes.
it wouldn't actually be connected to
Oh,
the playground, the surface itself would be next to it, but the springs is all separate.
But literally
Yeah.
3 inches.
Yeah, but the posts and poles don't connect at all. It's a separate swing, just like.
Yeah, if you take the swing set that I showed you the photo, that swing set, that exact same swing set could go at Detmer, or Vortex.
And we just build it off the side of the surface. We don't.
Now, the only thing that people complain about is that there's a very large tree in the pond that will need to come down. It's one of the remaining trees from the pond. And when we took the other trees down, it was quite a commotion, but when they were sawing through it, water was spewing out of them.
An old maple.
So it's just be aware, we'll get a lot of complaints about it.
I'm sure Edward would be happy to go look
Oh,
at
we
it.
could go look at it.
We could do a whole program about why it's in decline and why it needs to come out.
There you go.
I mean,
Well,
if you need the PR for it, we know, we can help you.
but the swing set would be right by the other unit, which means the parents can watch the kids. It's not somewhere else. It's right.
So you are proposing,
Well, I'm just saying you have options. You can buy one swing set, two swing sets, and a unit. We can store it all at Cars, knowing that we have to come up with more money later on to start putting things in. We have Andy
Yeah.
and enough supplies to do one swing set on our own.
so you are suggesting, not proposing, but just mentioning the possibility of buying the structures for both Jackson Creek and Detmer, installing the Detmer swing set in-house,
Yes.
storing the Jackson Creek equipment in-house until,
And you don't have to make a decision today. I just want you to ponder on
I'm
this.
just trying to reiterate with not too many words,
Okay.
where you're going with your thinking.
I mean, I think it makes sense to get the two swing sets and leave the other stuff, even though it's gonna be more expensive, but you can't buy everything you want this year and in anticipation of the next 40 years of what we need. But I think that starting to improve Jackson Creek and making it more acceptable to the people that live around there will start to get some interest in there. As I said, you know, that road, I don't know, how many houses did they build on the on the other side of that road? You probably know better than I do.
I thought it was 26.
You're already talking about
Where-
the Southern Meadows?
Yes, Southern Meadows, where that and Rogers crosses.
Yeah, well, there's two developments there, but one of them has,
One of them's already been built and the other one is.
yeah, there's just.
I'd like to just supplement what I said before. Usage. I'm all for improving Jackson Park. But you've described moving the playground, the area for the playground equipment to drier ground. And you've suggested that there's very little, or a few places or space in that park to properly put such equipment. So we're talking about a park that has limited space for any sort of facilities. So once we commit to swings and playground equipment for 2 to 4 year olds, we're kind of locked into it unless we want to tear it all out. And maybe what we ought to be thinking about longer term is something, a shelter house with some other equipment. But I just want us to make the right choice when we put there, not to forego funding improvements at the park, but we have such limited usable space to develop. We just need to be very careful what we put in and just not throw in a swing set.
We're not throwing, what I propose is have Andy Canoes from Blitzelberger, Cooper James, get everything on the park, draw everything out, and this will be what, because we don't have options. We can't have another shelter. I mean,
Okay.
it's playground or nothing. I mean, there is no.
No room for picnics,
There's no,
not even that.
this is it. But Andy could draw everything out, make sure we have the drainage going in the correct way. And when time comes, we can just put here, big square. We can put equipment in there. So it wouldn't be haphazard, you draw it out so we know what's coming in down the pipe. But there is not a lot of options. There's an option for a playground and a swing, nothing else.
Kevin, is there any type of data that would be helpful?
Well, I'm thinking back, when we had our master plan done, was there any discussion of long-term development of Jackson Creek Park in the master plan?
No, because basically all we're doing is replacing a playground.
Well,
I mean, it's, well, I know, but I mean, it's not, we're not adding anything. We're just, like, we're taking an old playground out, putting a new playground in a better location. And if we get the easement, and now a pedestrian access to it. So there's nothing more than that. There will never be.
But once we do that, then that's going to be it for the next 20, 25 years, whatever equipment we put in.
Correct.
Well, I hope it's what best meets the.
So what I'm wondering is, I'm just trying to think of like what type of data we could collect that would make a more informative decision, like the age
Well,
of the
Well, if,
homeowners around that area, the age of the kids and the homeowners.
which comes in.
If I can interject, because I think this will be helpful to you, but, and I'm kind of jumping borders here in government meetings, but, planning department has put together a really nice portal dashboard thing on where development is, what's like, average annual income, all kind of that statistics for, plan commission to help us better make decisions on rezones and things like that. It's a really nice dashboard and it segregates out the county in various ways. It shows, where, for lack of better terminology, where the money is and where the money's not in terms of housing. And where units are being built, what's been already allocated, what hasn't been developed, what's been rezoned but not developed, what is in the process of being developed, so on and so forth. I think that could be, if you wanted to reach out to planning department and try and get those numbers, that data, that would be maybe helpful to just look at them. You don't need to look at the whole county, but just look at the immediate area around Jackson Beach and see what are the plans in the future. We've already mentioned some of these developments, but first, I think before the first red flag that pops in my head, and before that is, have you had discussions with MS4 coordinator and stormwater and verified that you can actually go doing all this soil disturbance and building in the floodplain?
I will talk to them again, the four buildings said you can build a playground anywhere you want. I can confirm that if they've changed their mind,
Because I feel like
because it's not
in
a.
the
it's
last
not a
10
building,
years,
it's not a
playgrounds
building.
are not, you're right, it's not a building, but when I look at the playground that went in out at Carr's Farm and the amount of foundation that is underneath that thing compared to what is currently out at Jackson Creek. And, right now it's just mulch. Mulch washes down the creek, it's no big deal. From rubber or astroturf or anything that's there, if that gets into stormwater, we're talking about a little different concept.
It's all contained though, for the most part.
Yeah, but when floodwaters come up, they don't care about your.
Ironically enough, the lady has these playgrounds like all over. She had one in Florida that got flooded by the ocean. And she said it did literally no damage to the playground and it just drained itself right back out. It's pretty wild.
I am in no way trying to, shoot the pooch or anything. I'm just making sure that we've looked at all these things before we get in a tizzy
Yeah,
about
no,
this.
we will
That
talk
we
to
make
stormwater.
sure, and you present what is being built to stormwater, so they understand, we're not just playgrounds 15 years ago to building a playground today. It's a very different concept of building a playground. So those are my only concepts, but I think that data from planning commission would be really.
that's helpful. And I don't know that there's data that's laid out in a useful form, but just knowing where similar playgrounds are. For example, we talked about Clear Creek School and its expansion. Well, I don't know what facilities they have at Clear Creek School, but my recollection of elementary schools is they usually have a lot of playground equipment. And if they have a lot of good playground equipment there, that's probably drawing most of the families with kids in that immediate area is a lot of equipment of different types.
I
So
don't think there's a playground at Clear Creek.
there's no playground?
Not that I'm aware of,
Oh, there has, I'm sure, maybe down the hill.
maybe, but there's nothing.
But it'd be worth looking at.
Yeah, I would check on the nearest school, what they offer and
And the thing is, the reason why this was chosen is this is what we can literally afford.
yeah,
That's why that's not a big unit. This is not a big
I
unit.
appreciate that. But
It's not a big unit.
I think we ought to look at more than what we can afford. We can look at what there's a need or demand.
Yes, yeah, but this is why I brought this up, so you don't think that we're not paying attention, because we keep warning you. At some point, Andy may just come to me and say, I gotta pull the equipment now, something's happened. And just so you're aware, that particular part, maybe you should never have a playground. That's a decision.
So what I'm hearing, to mimic what Edward says, what I'm hearing is, two separate issues. One is a lot of questions about the Jackson Creek Park and where that information might be found to further the discussion. And then there's Detmer, where we have a request, multiple requests for swing sets. So, and I appreciate your one truck shopping. I understand that it's worked, it almost always works very well. But I'm wondering if this isn't an instance where we should just go ahead and get the swing set for Detmer and then reconvene on
Oh, yeah.
Jackson Creek.
I agree.
I'm fully on board with that too.
And I would say, I just want, it'll be under, Andy will say it's less, but you know me, under $15,000 probably to do the whole thing.
So.
Great.
And, in communications that you receive from people that live around there as you're removing the existing equipment, take note of that and find out, if there are people that are asking you, are you gonna replace this or not replace it?
We have a few people that email us.
Okay. Yeah, I guess,
That's the same people.
Yes, you've got a lot of, sounds to me like you've got a lot of,
More need at Denver.
a lot of questions to get answered
Oh, yeah, that's why we're talking.
at Jackson Creek. But I think we'll buy a swing set for Detmer and get it installed.
It's just so hard. Is that your motion? What usability, or what? Pardon? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I make the motion, we put this swing set, buy it, install it at Will Detmer Park.
I will second that, Mark.
Moved and seconded to buy a swing set for Will's Detmer.
I'll get it ordered.
Comments, questions? John?
Edward,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Carol, Kevin,
yeah,
Carol.
Yes. Motion passes. Are you ladies looking at Clear Creek School?
We were looking at their
Is there a
playground.
playground?
It's very small.
It's in the northeast corner of the property.
Yeah. Looks like they've got,
So in the meantime,
Why?
before this discussion returns to the board, we can all educate ourselves about the playground at the school. Right, okay. Because it kind of sounded like they were doing that. Moving on then to financial reports. And Jamie, do you have any?
I actually didn't pass anything along, but I will take the opportunity to say it's now a running joke. That I asked if we're off by $1 million on our budget from the access.
before we get to that, can we get the answer to my question about the encroachment stuff?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, Justin has left.
But
And he didn't share anything with you.
Well, good news is the commissioners approved the survey for Butts over Cooper James. They're in the process of doing that. So that's where we're at. And it has to take time. We had 90 days and all the
Yeah, he
provisions.
said something about sending stuff out to the adjacent
Right,
property.
there's a lot of things to do. So it's in the works.
that's all they wanted to know.
Thank you. I wanted to get back to that, but then the swing set's got in the way.
Swings, always swinging into the way.
So back to financial reports, so we're not off by $1 million, John. Everything looking good that you're hearing and seeing? All right, any questions about the financial reports under item 11? Yeah, this is just an FYI, unless there are questions. Jamie always says, "Pounds to the penny."
Thank you, Nick.
Hearing no questions or comments. I can interrupt me. About financial reports. We'll move on then to item 12. The department reports, page 30. Is pages. Hope you all had a chance to read all the goings on. Down there, the last item is special events. John.
We had a very successful egg hunt at Will Dental Park. It's actually 3 separate egg hunts. Actually, there's 4 this year. We provided an adaptive hunt at the end of the 3, and we had like 10 kids participate in that one, so decent turnout. It was successful, but not in some ways. What we did is we taped balloons to eggs in order for people to reach them that couldn't bend over. It had to have been the windiest morning of the year so far. So we set out the eggs and then the balloons took off. So that's
So did the eggs.
we passed out the balloons, which was just as well for everybody that was there. Easter Bunny made only 1 kid cry that I saw. That was.
My favorite part.
It is interesting to see the different reactions from kids. Some of them like pet the fur, others are like, you know.
Used to buy this year.
It's Jane.
Again?
Yeah. She's the only one that fits in the.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, cut the feet out of it, I think.
The Easter bunny rings are pretty small.
Yes, that's what I would say.
Well done, John. These other people are making fun of you, but I think.
Appreciate that.
Any other comments about the still here? Matt, you want to chime in here? I do.
Too excited that just up and running, everything's been going good, so.
Feels well watered.
Yeah. Irrigation yet?
Saving some money. That's good.
I think everything else is self-explanatory, all the items.
I forgot what happened to the gate park at the dog park. That was vandalism, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think. So the wires, what I'm guessing is that the magnet wasn't working right, because they said the magnet just took a crash, but my guess is that it wasn't working, and so then somebody to like see if they could get it working just took the conduit and just started like shaking it, and then that pulled the wires out the rest of the way. But it was a bad magnet. We had to end up waiting for like 3 weeks to get a magnet in. It was on back order, and that's all good to go. Yes.
Any other questions?
I have a follow-up question, if there's anything to report regarding the acquisition of the property donation on the east side of Bloomington. Anything happening with that?
Yes. Justin met with the trustee of the trust. And even though it is going to be in public meetings, they ask that we don't chat about it until they're ready.
Good.
Okay, it's an update.
Somebody that generous, we could certainly abide by that.
Last item on the agenda says, no correspondence, but then Jamie hands me this card, which at the time came with a check for $100 to the department. I don't have it. It's good. That is good, probably, but I'll read it to you. This is your card. Dear Flatwoods Park Management, Flatwoods, this is. Just want to write to acknowledge what a fantastic park this was for the total eclipse viewing. We appreciated the foresight to reserve all shelters and label them as open to all. There was also an amazing crew on hand throughout the day, making sure that garbage cans were taken care of, toilet paper resupplied, and dog bag dispensers filled. We spent the entire day at the park, arrived at dawn and hiked the amazing paved trail, many times enjoying the huge variety of birds. Then the open area turned out to be perfect for the eclipse viewing. I know you worked hard.
There
on
was
it.
somebody there. There must be people. They said there was one vehicle that showed up right at 7.
Please use our gift, that's the $100, to the Parks Department to continue the great maintenance of Flatwoods Park. As signed by Tim and Renee Feathers from Wisconsin.
So
P.S. We also met the gatekeeper first thing in the morning and had a wonderful conversation with him. Please let him and his wife know their care of the park was appreciated.
Even got a dose of the Taylor, so that's not fun.
and you all may or may not know, the house that is right next to the park is owned by the Taylors. And we have hired them. They opened, closed the gate. That's about all we ask them to do. And then if they look over their fence and see something really bizarre, they call one of us.
Good job.
Well, it's a bargain. It's a bargain.
There was a lot of people from Wisconsin on about. We had Washington DC, we had Washington State, we had Michigan, tons of Wisconsins, a bunch of Virginias, Florida, a bunch of Illinois people. They were just from all over, literally every corner of the US, Quebec, Canada. There was a van, small like Sprinter van there from Quebec. So they were from all
And
over.
weren't the people nice?
Yeah,
They were all nice,
I mean,
welcoming.
and it was so wild too. Like, and I don't know what it was like at Switchyard, but for the moments up until the totality, it was dead silent. Like everybody was just dead silent. And then as soon as the totality happened, just mass cheering, people clapping, people honking their horns, and you could hear it from all over Cars Farm Park. And then the church right over there that we're having a huge thing, you could hear it the same thing.
It was like that at Switcher.
Yeah, it was wild.
It's like that. at the
We
state.
saw an RV that was pulling one of those trailers things at like 5,000 stickers of stakes and whatever,
Yeah.
all over this thing. I think they probably RV'd and they had their closet pulling behind them that they came through. They were from California, but there were a lot of people around. It just they just weren't all in the same place, which was great. And a lot of that was because, I mean, originally there was only supposed to be a few places where there weren't going to be clouds.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be just the most gorgeous day,
It's gorgeous.
whatever.
And grateful of the group of friends.
Oh.
Many more.
Actually, I didn't know when.
You mentioned her.
Bye, Kenny, thank you.
The letter, your card you read there mentioned about the great bird diversity at Flatwoods, and I think you guys all know that I'm addicted to birding. And that, but that is actually a meeting that I recently was out at Flatwoods with Andy and our wildlife specialist from Purdue. And we were looking at, the property, the layout and everything, and what kind of natural resource management. This was a conversation with Damien or Kelly and I had a while back and about talking about what kind of natural resource management we need to be doing long-term. Because right now, with it coming out of agriculture 20+ years ago, invasives are starting to present them. Well, they have been presenting themselves. What kind of work we need to be thinking about long-term. So that is just throwing that out there, just so you guys are on it's on your radar, that's a conversation we had. Yeah, nice little hike out there and looked at some stuff, but there is a great mix of bird diversity out there. I think the eBird record is like 198 different species or something like that. So I got stuff for you. Why that list? No, that's in the lifetime of these recording spots in Flatwood. But I did send this out to you guys. Kelly printed it out, but that's just a thing I'm doing tomorrow. And
Yes, I thank you for the invite. Unfortunately, I have to work early voting, but I won't be there otherwise.
no, there are absolutely no obligation. That was just something, recently somebody, if any of you know Cheryl Munson, she serves on planning commission with me. She came to me when she, after she heard from either county council or whatever about new property. I don't know what to say.
Oh, that,
But,
yeah.
and she was like, with all that ag field, that could be an opportunity for tree planting. And, I know it's way too early to be discussing anything and that's not what I'm trying to do, but I just thought that might be an opportunity, for you guys to see what that kind of.
So this is on the Anderson landfill, but
It is not, because of the landfill cap itself. We cannot plant on the landfill itself, but all the bordering property. The main planting we're doing tomorrow is actually off of Shiloh Road. So just across from the Anderson landfill. They're in the floodplain, and that site has been historically always been the groundwater monitoring field. So it's always been kept in hay production just because they're required to, and they only utilize it to go out and check all the groundwater, basically all the runoff off the landfill. That's the property between the stream and the landfill, and that's where they do all this monitoring. So that thing's always been great, but the state is allowing us to reforest that section of property.
What
And
kind
take
of
it out
trees
of
are you
there.
putting in?
We have a really great mix of just they're all native shrubs and trees. But we're putting in a lot of shrubs because deer predation is so heavy in that area. And we know that oaks are probably going to be nipped and stuff, but we do have a good number of oaks. We have some pecans, we have some walnuts, a lot of fruit trees, but we also have a lot of fruiting shrubs for just wildlife in general. Because of the fact that it's landfill, we are not allowed to use any sort of vegetation management in terms of herbicide. So we're kind of going with the overwhelming concept. So we can't, it's been in hay production. We can't treat the grasses to try to allow the trees for better competition, but we can plant a ton of shrubs to hope for the best. So.
That's growing, so fast growing.
Yes, we went with a lot of fast growing species. So, but
So basically in the future, we're gonna come with the presentation
yes.
of Flatwoods Park. We have some ideas because we're making so many improvements. I mean, this park is just being, just
And I-
improved.
Again, it's an area that's really getting built up, so.
Well, and I think it's such a gem of a natural resource site up there. You go further north and you get into more bean blossom, you go further east, but there around Ellettsville, there is no walkable natural resource sites, So having that gem of a opportunity for people to check out from technology and check into nature is nice for whatever possible development might occur in Ellettsville. And so that's what we're kind of talking about and looking at. What are the possibilities and what's it going to take to maintain it or better it and not let it invasive and natural success. Sorry.
On that subject of walkability and that park in Ellettsville, is Ellettsville working on trying to get a route for a pedestrian bikeway to?
Yes.
Okay,
Flatwoods Park has been identified as a trailhead
yeah,
from McCormick Street State Park. Flatwoods Park to the town hall.
right, but is
Yes.
Ellettsville
Yes.
working on that segment?
Yes, well, they're working behind the scenes, yes.
Okay, good. I mean, I know that we've identified that
Yes.
as a part of a route, but their involvement, I think, would make a big difference.
I meet with Ellisville once a month. And with the director of McCormick Street State Park and Owen County folks, and we plan. And
There's some,
Speaking of natural things.
there are some conversations going on behind the scenes, as you say. I talked to Jim Durden when his meeting, he was kind of filling me in on a few back.
Because Mike Farmer from Ellisville is working very hard. He is driven to get this done.
He's the now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And he's everything.
One last comment.
So where are we with the new naturalist position?
We'll probably be interviewing in 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
I would say
2 weeks.
Anything else?
It'd be acceptable for us to ask, have you received a fair amount of applicants or?
Yes, and we have,
28, I think.
Oh, wow, nice.
so we have a selection and John's been putting in piles and. Yeah, good job, John.
Throwing darts to things.
Can we find someone with a good.
I'd make a motion.
You certainly can, sir.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
For a second?
I'll second that.
Here.
Hey, John, if any of them have a Purdue degree, feel free to float those. To the top.
Went over an hour.
I don't. Evelyn, I apologize for being late, so please don't pay me for it. It was our biannual performance review with my supervisor. I don't do that often. Hard to.
I gotta go.
Yeah. But it was really good, so. Especially when I told her about